If you'd have come to me a couple of months back and said to me, Weeb, when Togashi comes back, he's going to do the origin story for the Phantom Troupe within the first couple of chapters, I would have laughed you off the internet. But fast forward to a couple of weeks, and here we are with Togashi doing exactly that, giving us an origin story for the Phantom Troupe. But before I get into this video, I'd just like to ask you all to like, comment, and subscribe, as it really does help me out a lot. But without further ado, let's get into the chapter. So if you remember, in the last chapter, we saw a young Chrollo and Paku stealing a mystery tape from Uvagon for them to find out it's anime. And they decide that they're going to do their own dub with their own voices, and that's where this chapter opens up. It basically is a screening for their day, for their tape, basically. It's a screening day for their tape, and it's the grand reveal for their dub, and we see the troupe handing out snacks to kids, and Uvagon appears behind Chrollo saying, "Yo, Chrollo, I heard you put my video to good use." Uvagon standing behind Chrollo and these kids looks ridiculously menacing, mentioning how he can't wait for the after party, and he basically wants revenge for Chrollo stealing his shit, which is completely understandable from Uvagon's point of view here. And I also want to point out just how big this dude is. Like this man is a whole head and shoulders above these kids. Like, whatever air this boy is breathing over a Meteor City, it needs to be tested, because that is one big fucking human right there. But shortly after this little exchange, we see Finks and Phaeton showing up to ask if Chrollo wants to play soccer after his date with Uvagon. And honestly, seeing Phaeton looking like he's just stuck his finger into an electric socket with that hair is one of the best design choices Togashi could have ever made for him, I can't lie. But then we see Sarasa handing Finks the snacks, telling him he's on snack duty, with Finks reluctantly accepting. This whole dynamic seems completely different from the troupe that we are used to. It seems wild to see them acting without any sort of established leadership. We can see Chrollo is the kind of this head honcho here, but we can also see Uvagon and Finks sort of vying for that leadership role. It only stokes the flames of curiosity that I have for this little origin story. How does Chrollo end up becoming this incredibly powerful, cold leader for some of the most well-established killers in the world? How do these sweet, innocent little kids even become some of the most well-established killers in the world? I have so many questions, and this chapter answers quite a few when you read between the lines. You start to see the formation of the troupe and what we've come to know and love as the Phantom Troupe. For example, we see Chrollo visibly bothered by Sheila's comment about everyone calling him little bro, when even the youngest has to look out for you. This visibly gets to Chrollo here, and we can only assume this leads Chrollo down the path of his protective leader, who cares so much for his comrades and his brethren, basically, and he shows real emotion when something bad happens to them. We've seen him grieve multiple losses from the troupe, and we only see the early foundations and the formation of that grizzled leader in this chapter. But we cut over to the screening, and this cinema is absolutely packed. Either everyone is excited for the film, or they really love the troupe, and honestly, with everything we've seen so far, I'm vouching for the latter. They seem to be like these champions of the people, do you know what I mean? Like, this little community seems to all just look towards the troupe like they are, you know, that's the big brothers, that's what we want to be when we're older. But then we get to see the same anime from the chapter previous appear on the screen, and I don't know if this is intentional or not, but that main character looks a lot like Gon. Like, there's even a close-up of his face of this character, and it may or may not be something Togashi meant to do, but I'm taking it as a sign that Gon's return is confirmed, and you cannot convince me otherwise. But, off my crazy conspiracy bullshit, the crowd gets super hyped for the showing, and we see Finks, Phaeton, and Uvagon sitting amongst the crowd, watching the showing, and this chapter gives us the first hints of powers among the troupe that you may or may not have noticed. The screening ends up messing up due to the tape jamming. It made me feel really nostalgic, because some of my YouTube audience are too young to even remember what a VHS tape actually is. So comment down below if you remember what that relic is, but that made me kind of nostalgic seeing a tape jam up there. But the screening stops due to the tape getting raveled all up, And we see the first hints of Uvagen's power as he shouts across the crowd, "Hurry up and play the rest, you bastard." Or is that all you got, Chrollo? And if you remember when the troupe first appeared and fought the Shadow Beasts back in the York New arc, Uvagen used something similar, and the troupe were all aware of it by inhaling a shit ton of oxygen and screaming at the top of his lungs, literally deafening and disorientating anyone within earshot of that scream. And I think this panel right here is like the first hints of that power, because we see the kids in front of Uvagen getting like hurt by this. You see them covering their ears from how loud this scream was. So I think this is a little wink and a nod to Uvagen's future powers. I mean, RIP, but you know what I'm saying. But Chrollo appears on stage to save the crowd from losing it and apologizes to them and immediately jumps straight into character, and it shocks the crowd with his performance. Like, this boy literally has this crowd eating out the palm of his hand, like completely under control, and he proceeds to give the crowd a countdown where the screen starts up again with the crowd's applause, and again we are shown that same character who looks exactly like Gon. The resemblance is too uncanny for Togashi to not do anything with this. I don't know, it's a bit strange to me. It could just be a harmless wink wink nod nod, you know what I'm saying, but I'm taking it as that's confirmed Gon's return. You can't convince me otherwise. It's at this point in the screen and the villain appears, and Chrollo is voicing the villain. And it's conspiracy time. Chrollo looks incredibly sinister here and shocks almost everyone in the crowd with his voice. They all look absolutely terrified hearing his voice for the first time. Everyone except Nobunaga. I also want to point out that Nobunaga is actually the one that started this whole flashback, and he's just only appeared now. Why wasn't he in the last chapter? But my crazy conspiracy theory here is that both Chrollo and Nobunaga were the first ones among the troupe to learn Nen. And my basis for this is two things. Number one, when Chrollo uses his voice, the whole crowd is terrified, as if they've been caught in Nen, like something that they couldn't perceive, but they realized they were kind of in danger. And we also see this aura appearing from Chrollo while on stage. Now, this may or may not be just the way it's drawn, but it looks way too similar to Nen aura for me to brush it off. There's got to be something behind there. There's too many little winks and nods in this chapter for it to just all mean nothing here. And then number two, everyone in the crowd is shocked at this display from Chrollo. Everyone except Nobunaga, who is literally smiling as if he's seen Chrollo do this before, and has been waiting for this moment for Chrollo to show off this type of ability. And I know there's no solid evidence to base these claims off, but like I said, it's a crazy conspiracy theory, and what fun is manga without a crazy conspiracy theory, right? But we move on to see majority of the troupe on stage for the final team-up act in this anime screening, where we see this character looking suspiciously like Gon, but after the screening, the crowd loves them, and I hear they might even get an Oscar. But we see Chrollo going to meet with Uvagen, presumably for the fight/date, to make up for Chrollo stealing the tape in the first place. And we see Sarasa walking ahead of Chrollo here, and she turns to face Chrollo and then does an impression of Uvagen from when Uvagen literally just screamed the showing room, basically. This is where, like I mentioned, we see the formation of the leader in Chrollo here, as Uvagen, in his own unique way, basically apologizes to Chrollo and asks to let him play the monster next time, even saying that what Chrollo did today hit him harder than any punch he's ever taken. Now, again, I'm reading between the lines here. Everyone was shocked when Chrollo did that voice. The aura that seems to appear around him, everyone's shocked, and Uvagen also saying that it's hit him harder than any punch he's ever been hit with. Yeah, it sounds a bit too much like Nen to me to sort of brush this off. But this is basically Uvo acknowledging Chrollo here as the group's leader. It's a nice thing to see. It's nice to see them all starting to mesh together here. But then we see the group talking about the next performance and trying to decide on a name for the troupe. And this is such a cool scene to see, like, in my opinion, because I was always under the impression that the troupe's name was given to them by everyone who had heard of them and their reputation, not something that they had decided on when they were younger, basically. So to see them sat here talking about it and deciding on a name that later on in their later years would make grown men tremble is a pretty surreal experience to see where that name has come from. But then we see Uvogin and Chrollo talking, and we see Uvo telling him how he wants to perform everywhere so he can become the world's greatest villain. And honestly, again, this is such a cool scene considering how theatrical the troupe is. Like, remember that scene of the troupe mowing everything down in York New City while Chrollo was performing this orchestral act above the city, sort of guiding the troupe to their actions, basically, as if it was a theatre performance. They've all been ones for showmanship kind of thing. Well, the original members have anyway. Later on, members sort of don't really care about it, but a lot of them all seem to be theatrical in the way that they present themselves. But the chapter then ends out with Sarasa running out to try and find other tapes for the troupe to dub over. And unfortunately, she is running around the area where our shady kidnappers are lurking about, and we know this is only going to end one way. Right now, the troupe is on a losing streak. We have Hisoka hunting them down, and they just seem to be strolling in unfortunate events right now. So seeing Sarasa in the past running around like this makes me very, very nervous. You know, the troupe has gone through some sort of dark events to get where they are, and I wonder if this is one of those events and one of those tragedies that is going to lead them on this path of becoming these basically super villain anti-heroes, basically. Overall, this chapter was absolutely phenomenal, and Togashi is writing actual works of art here. But that is all from me, and as always, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, because it really does help me out. And if you want to support the channel even further, consider becoming a member for some extra bonus perks. But as always, that's everything from me. Big kisses, much love, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.